This week on This Too Shall Pass, after I was left unconscious in the front yard of my apartment, my neighbor called 911 for me. And I guess the only thing that really made me go back this time that was different from all the other hits or incidences or fights is I had to tell the truth. And when I say had, I was forced. Everyone was there, the police, DCF, my parents, because they were my emergency contact. My parents had to write witness statements on how they saw me because when they first arrived, I was not coherent. I was unconscious. Welcome to the This Too Shall Pass podcast. Trust me, I know life can be. This is an inclusive space for our stories and lessons to be heard and learned from without judgment, because this too shall pass. Welcome back to the This Too Shall Pass podcast. My name is Ariel. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for being here. You are loved, you are seen, you are welcome. I always start out by asking, how are you? I feel like that's a question that I didn't get asked enough, and I encourage you to answer it honestly. So whether that's in the comments here on YouTube or in the comments wherever you're streaming or you see us, how are you? What's new with you? What's going on? For me, this episode's going to be a lot. We are going to go over, exit strategies and how I became free of a domestic violence relationship. But before we start, we're going to start off with this episode's Her Voice, Her Story. And I want to shout out someone that I have grown to love, someone I appreciate, someone I didn't know her as of like a year ago. I have no idea who this person is. Her name is Carla Willimaris. You probably have seen her on my stories on Instagram or on my page and my platform regardless. She's the cute, thin, curly, wild head looking one. But she is beautiful inside and out. I feel like she saw me from the beginning. She hunted me down for me to go on her podcast. She owns Idea to Launch. She is a boss. Like, she encourages me to do more, to step up my game, to keep going. Things that I've noticed about her that I love, she doesn't say like I can't a lot, or she finds out a way to things that I think are probably very overwhelming, and it might overwhelm her too, but the way she words things and the way she talks about the things that feed her soul or make her hungry is very inspiring. She's also a single mother. She also has children like me that have large gaps away in age. And she's doing it. I think it is very important to be able to see yourself in your circle. And she is someone that I look up to. She is positive. She is loving. She is warm. She is considerate. I appreciate her as a person, so I think you should find her on Instagram. Her name is Carla Willimaris. She runs Idea to Launch, and even if you just watch her on her stories, she is a down-to-earth, funny, quirky mother, and I feel like she is someone you can benefit from, even when you're down and you're out. I didn't tell my story anywhere first, except for on her platform. I showed snips and pieces of it, like video versions of it on my page, but I never sat down and used my voice to tell my story. And she showed me that there's power in that, and there is a testimony in your stories. Can turn your mess into something powerful. So I thank her for that. So
I didn't pay her for this, I promise.
She is this episode's Her Verse, Her Story. And no, she didn't pay me. She didn't encourage me. She actually said, "What the hell, me?" No, it is you. So we're going to move on. Now we are going to shout out an Apple Podcast review. Username is N as in Nancy 1. Oh, Nicole with a C. But instead of N-I, it's N1. Yes. N1C0LEC. So Nicole C. She wrote, "Congratulations. I'm here for this unapologetically piece. I'm here for this unapologetical piece. Proud of you and excited to be here. First episode was everything I knew it would be." I really appreciate that. I love that you guys are taking the time to even, verbally write down how you think the podcast is going or how you are feeling it in your soul and your spirit and your peace. I thank you for even allowing me in your home. Some of you are watching me on YouTube, and I don't take that for granted. I thank you for allowing us to sit together and get to know each other and welcome me into your home, even though it is virtual. I don't take that for granted. I didn't know how this was going to go. So for you to say that you knew it was going to be good, I was nervous. And I think anyone would be nervous because I am using my voice, kind of like what I said about Carla, to tell my story from my perspective. And I really do appreciate you guys' love, consideration, and understanding. And let's do this. I really want to get to know you guys. So please continue to leave your comments down below. We do pick one randomly, and it could be yours that we shout out next time. So I do want to thank you, Nicole, for your comment, and thank you for letting me in your home. So this episode, we are going to start with exit strategies. Now we're going to go over what did I do different the second time. The second time is after I was left unconscious in the front yard of my apartment. I was about, I want to say 2 months pregnant with Owen, who was my fifth and last child. And I say last out loud so that God can hear me because I want no more children. I am satisfied with what you gave me. Thank you. Amen. So it happened after Owen. My neighbor called 911 for me. And I guess the only thing that really made me go back this time that was different from all the other hits or incidences or fights is I had to tell the truth. And when I say had, I was forced. There were police in my house. There was DCF investigators for my kids with clipboards checking the drawers. They looked to see if you have weed, if you have knives that are in the wrong drawer. They looked through the refrigerator to see if there was enough food for my kids to eat. They checked how many beds were there per children, if they each had a toothbrush, if they each had adequate clothing or backpacks or a place to eat. And again, DCF had to be called because this was a physical altercation, domestic violence between two domestic parents, and there were minor children involved. And involved does not mean that your children have to be physically in the fight. Involved can be as simple as it was for me. My children were sleeping at the home that I was attacked at, which was my residence. So I had to tell the truth. Everyone was there, the police, DCF, my parents, because they were my emergency contact for the apartment complex I was staying at that time. I just couldn't hide it anymore, and I didn't have a choice. I had to be photographed. My parents had to write witness statements on how they saw me because when they first arrived, I was not coherent. I was unconscious. Another big step I made for myself at this time is I went to therapy. And I know now you can call on the back of your insurance card. A lot of places now are taking mental health a lot more seriously. I think it's always been serious, but until you've gone through it like me, or you've experienced that mental health struggle with a family member and you're close to it, it is hard to relate to. Growing up, people always described to me, or how I perceived mental health, is you had to be crazy. You had to be out of your mind. You had to be homeless. You had to be schizophrenic. You had to be something that outwardly made you insane. And it's not. Depression is real. And I didn't know that friend until she came and sat in my house. And she consumed how I ate. She consumed how I moved. Simple things were overwhelming. So this time that was different. I went to therapy. And I didn't find it on my own. That's why I brung up you could call on the back of your insurance card if you have insurance. But I got help from Harbor House. They had a domestic violence counseling session for women once a week. And I made sure to go to that. And I was also court ordered to go to that. They can see it on me. They can see the bruises on me. I had some healed wounds that were present because I had to go to the hospital. And I think they use force because a lot of women like myself, we just hide it and we just go back. But when there's children involved, and unfortunately, I've seen some situations get worse where the kids get hit or the kids get attacked, and you have to figure out a way to keep everyone safe. So I went to therapy for myself and to make sure I can keep custody of my children at that time. I had to let my pride go. I had to stop being afraid of how other people would view me. How my parents would view me. I thought I was just going to be viewed as a disappointment or another sad story. I I was ashamed to come out and say the person I loved, the person I gave children to and invited you to our wedding beats the shit out of me in his free time. That was hard to say now. So imagine then when I was covering the bruises and I couldn't explain to my best friends why I didn't talk to them anymore. It's not that I didn't love them. It's not that I didn't want to reach out. It's not that I didn't think about them when our Facebook memories came across my page. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to relate to them anymore. I hated myself. So it was hard for me.
How was this different from your first time?
I didn't tell anyone I was being hit. So I was able to just brush it off. I just said it was an argument, or I didn't come back around until the bruise was gone.
So now the second time you completely opened up about everything, that you had no choice.
I didn't have a choice. When they asked me to take my shirt off and photograph me, and I saw my dad's eyes widen from the bruises on my back, I couldn't say anymore, oh, I fell. And the cops were pushing me. The cops, I'm pretty sure they're trained in some aspect for domestic violence. They pushed me hard, and they pushed me harder than a father pushes his daughter. I think my dad maybe didn't want to know the truth. Maybe that was a lot to hear, that I trusted you when I put you behind closed doors with someone that's hurting you. So sometimes I think he stopped asking, because it was a lot. It's a lot to hear your daughter say. But the cops have seen it. They've heard it, and they were on me, and they were just like, please don't tell me you fell. How did you get those bruises? When did you get them? How long have they been there? And they looked in places that my parents didn't look. They looked, on my thighs where I wore pants and it was hot outside. The cops knew that was, why do you have pants on? You're in the house. Why are you fully dressed? Please take your sweatshirt off. It was the middle of the summer. And those were questions I was never pressed by my parents, and it was hard for them. I remember seeing them behind the cop that was asking me the questions swell up with tears. I remember seeing my mom have to step out of the room and grab some tissues because it was a lot. And it's hard to hear all of this and know, hey, Ariel, we love you and we live down the street. Like, why didn't you say anything?
Some of the things that you did the second time around, outside of now it's completely out. You said there's no pride. So you said there was some government assistance that you were able to use during this time. This is immediately after. Immediately after,
I had to, this is the swallowing my pride. I had to apply for food stamps. I had to wait in the line for a WIC. I waited at some churches at a food pantry just to get food. You don't even know what's in the bags. It's a brown grocery bag. They hand it to you. And at that time, you're so hungry, or your kids are so hungry, or you're so empty in the pantries. It doesn't even matter. Like, I learned how to make a meal out of nothing. It didn't matter what it was. We figured it out. I got help with daycare in my county, and possibly in yours. There's something called 4C and an ELC, Early Learning Coalition. And 4C will help you with daycare prices, paying for those prices. There are certain daycares that accept the 4C program, and they will pay a certain amount depending on how in need or in poverty, I should say, you are. For me, I had nothing. I had 4 minor children. I had no aftercare. I had no before care. I now didn't have this job because of the car accident. My son and daughter didn't go back to school for a long time. So 4C will assist with childcare. Early Learning Coalition helped me with Andre and Haley for before and after school, because sometimes I couldn't get off work at 3 o'clock. I had to work till 5. So where do these 2 small children go for 2 hours? Food stamps put food on our table for years. 4C helped me get all of my children through daycare for years. School readiness assisted with after school and before school prices and care coverage. WIC is, I think it's Women, Infant, and Children is what WIC stands for. And it is also, it's similar to food stamps in the aspect that it helps you get food for free, but it does not cover the large quantity that food stamps covers. Food stamps will allow you to get anything as long as it is not alcohol related or already cooked or hot. But WIC will allow you to get certain items. So even though it says milk, it's a certain type of milk. Even though it says cereal, it's a certain type of cereal. Food stamps, you can get whatever you want down the cereal aisle. WIC gives you a certain type, and it gives you a quantity amount as well. And those were the types of government assistance I needed. We were in our new apartment at the time still, and I was job hunting for new medical billing and coding jobs for the technical program I had finished. And another part where I had to humble my pride is to be honest now and tell you that even though I was hit, and even though I told the truth, and even though I was free to everyone else, my mind held me captive. And for a long time, I still wanted to go back. I still wanted to feel loved. I still wanted to be normal. It was embarrassing as hell to walk around with 4 kids as young as I was, with no father, with only 2 arms. They were ripping and running through the grocery store, ripping and running through the schools. I just always felt like I didn't have a handle on it. And because I grew up always seeing a man and a woman, I felt like that was the missing link. That's what I was missing. Even though that man that I had was terrible, I just gave him 2 children and I was still pregnant. So the bigger I got, the slower I got. I was exhausted. I just wanted someone to love us. I didn't want to be hit again, but I still wanted that person for how I viewed him before the domestic violence started. And I think it's very important to know that even though someone comes out of a domestic violence relationship, we don't harbor or think on the moments that tore us down. You harbor on those sprinkle on the top moments that were good for you. You harbor on, oh, remember that time he brought me roses to my job, or how he used to court me and chase me, how he used to call all the time, and how he used to say he'd never cheat on me and I was his one and only. Those are the moments that you hold on to. I never held on to when he punched me in the face. I never thought about it again. Once the bruise healed, I tried to hide it deep down as far as I could.
When were the times that you wanted to go back the most?
In the nighttime, when it was quiet, when I was just sitting me in my thoughts, or me in my depression, or me in my healing. Those were hard moments. Healing has never been peaceful for me. Healing has always been something I had to let go of. I remember praying loud to God that, well, I'm awake. I'm so stressed. I'm so tired. I'm so spread thin. I'm so overwhelmed. God, when I go to sleep, please don't let me dream about him. I hated waking up from a dream and I dreamt about him, and I'm waking up in the reality that he's not here, but yet I'm still raising all of my children by myself with no help. And then I get to open my phone into social media. At the time, Snapchat was big, and I got to watch him be happy without us. I got to watch him be okay in his day. I know social media is not 100% real, and it's not all day long. It's only little snippets of people's lives. But the little snippets that he showed, the laughter, the happiness, the whole face full of teeth, I never had any of those moments. I lost 80 pounds in 6 months. I was in the toilet vomiting from a new pregnancy, a pregnancy that I didn't even know with 100% that I wanted to keep. A pregnancy that everyone else around me told me was a terrible idea. I was still in it, and he looked free. He was happy. He had a new girlfriend. He had a new place to stay. I felt like God was just punishing me, and I didn't understand. I was doing right. I feel like I'm a good person. I'm trying my best, and I still thought about him. I still thought about the marriage. I still thought about it. What could I have done better as a woman? A lot. Maybe if I just didn't bring it up. Maybe if I was just quiet. Even though he hurt my feelings, just don't say anything about it. Maybe it would have worked. Maybe I shouldn't have said how him staying out all night, hurt my feelings, and I'd like to hang out with you. He used to say that I was naggy or I was clingy. Sometimes I just thought maybe it was me. Maybe I was the one to fix, because now that we're broken up and we're separated, I'm the only one that's alone. He was in a whole new situation, happy and thriving, and I felt like I was missing out.
What about sleeping alone?
I didn't. I never slept alone. To this day, I probably don't sleep alone. Owen is 3 currently, and he has slept with me since I gave birth, and Aaron slept with me until Owen was born. I've never slept alone again. I know that is something I have to work on, something me and my therapist talk about often, but I struggle in the nighttime. At least if my kid or my child is in the bed, we're watching a show they want to watch, or they're talking to me, or we fall asleep together. I don't care who you are Sleeping with your baby is the best sleep you will ever get. When we are nose to nose and that it's peaceful. They're not looking for me. They don't want anything more than just you. It's something about the peace of sleeping with your baby. It is calming for me. And I fall asleep better and longer with someone in my bed. And I'm not looking to replace that someone with any man on the street. So I feel like it is safe to let my child sleep with me. Aaron slept with me till 5 and Owen is 3 and currently still in my bed. I don't nap. I barely sleep still, but now I don't sleep because I'm overwhelmed. Then I didn't sleep because I hated myself. So that's a big difference. I don't sleep now because I'm trying to push social media. I'm trying to stay on top of my work. I'm trying to still work 2 jobs at home, remote. I'm trying to still cook dinner and flip the laundry load. Before, I was trying to ask God to show me, why am I still here?
Could you be codependent on your kids now and using that?
I could see that being an honest answer. I would hate to say no and that's it, but I do see that. I get a lot of anxiety just thinking that literally in 24 months, Andre is considered an adult in America. To know that he is considered 18. Not that he has the right to move on his own, because I feel like he's very respectful. I feel like he's very responsible and he deserves a good outlook on life. But a part of me feels sad that he's not just mine, if that makes sense. He's going to be loved and appreciated by someone else. And I love him for all of him. And that makes me a little nauseous to even think about. I don't like this whole new girlfriend phase. But I know it is important for me to try to figure out who I am solo as just Ariel, because my kids do have the right to grow up and be happy and chase their dreams, whatever that is for them, and not stay because mom will be sad by herself.
In the midst of wanting to go back and feeling really strong, something happened. So just kind of start there. What happened to get you distracted from wanting to go back? And I'm referring to the adoption.
One time that I buckled, even after Owen was born, I did buckle. He got in a really bad car accident, and the hospital called me and was like, hey, he listed you as his wife. And I remember feeling like, wow, he still thinks about me. I'm still listed on his paperwork. It was hard for me to tell that person on the phone, is he dead? No. He's just in surgery. Oh, you think he's going to make it? Yeah, he's going to do fine. Okay, well, when he comes to, ask him not to call me anymore. That was hard to say. I know it was hard because even though I said it and I hung up, and you might have felt proud of me in that moment, I stalked social media of any sign that he was okay. I remember reaching out to some of his friends asking, hey, he got in a bad accident. Have you heard from him? Do you think he's going to be okay? So I still cared behind the scenes. I just didn't want him to know verbatim that I cared. And I didn't like how hearing that he still referred to me as his wife only when he was down gave me some sort of oomph. I didn't like how that made me feel. Owen was a newborn at the time. This was beginning of COVID when the world began to shut down. Now I have 4 kids at home. Schools are closed, and I have to be a teacher and a breastfeeding new mom all within 2 weeks of each other.
Here, can you go into and you're gonna say here, in the midst of all of this wanting to go back, I find I have a buffer with the adoption. So kind of start there and then give me the buffer of the adoption and that storm short, and then your vices.
Okay. So even in the midst of, really trying to heal on my own and figure out who I was without him or who I was without this marriage and not holding all the guilt and the weight, a big buffer that I didn't see as a buffer at the time. I really saw it as, damn, my luck is down bad. There's nothing good going to come from this. There was a family gathering, and at that gathering is where I found out I was adopted. So I was already grown. I'd already been married, now separating for divorce. I had 4 kids. We had finally got our new apartment. And this is when I found out that the parents who had raised me all of my life, that I love, that are still considered my parents, were not the parents that I genetically came from.
We need to go into we have a whole episode on it. Right. So that's when the adoption, just kind of use the adoption as that helped me stop thinking about him as much, but it's not like it was good or the other one, and then go into the vices.
So that, again, I didn't see that as a buffer at its time, but it was a good distraction. It let me, it helped me break my mind off of him. It gave me something else to focus on that wasn't mentally tearing me down. Even though I know that I am adopted, it didn't hurt me to my core and make me feel depressed because I still had a good childhood. But I did pick up some bad vices between the divorce, the adoption, the buffer, myself, my kids. It was hard for me, like I said, to sit alone with my thoughts. It was hard for me to sit in silence. I never smoked or drank. I felt like in those big pivotal years where people maybe try to hit a blunt or have something to drink, 21, 18, I was pregnant, 16, pregnant, 18, pregnant, 21, pregnant. I skipped a lot of those big social milestones that I think that was maybe the time a lot of people's friend would hand them something or, oh, try this. I didn't have those experiences. For good or bad, I don't know what for. Maybe it saved me from a different path. You never know. But me separating and living alone, I picked up a lot of things I didn't before. My drinking became heavy, not straight alcohol, but wine. I picked up smoking. At the time, I tried blacks for a long time until someone introduced me to vapes, and then I was on vaping to this day, and I'm still trying to break that habit. I've gotten full control of my drinking and the wine down to when I want it and when it is, socially appropriate, but it's not being consumed like water. And I'm not drinking and smoking to just cloud my heads. I'm actually doing it because, hey, we're at a pool party, or hey, I want to try this right now. It's not to blind me from my life. And I think that matters. What makes you pick it up does matter. I also had to go through therapy for that. But a lot of that hidden addiction for stuff that's not illegal is very hard to break by yourself. And no one really called me out on it. I was an adult. I lived alone behind closed doors. My children were small. I had to see it as a problem for me to step in and say, hey, this is something we should work on.
Here's a segue. So these are some things that I did and something that if you've been through it or someone you've been through it, you can do.
Okay.
So segue that way.
So if you are going through, maybe I pray not exactly what I'm going through, but for good or for worse, everyone's perception of their situation is different. And I want everyone to feel validated or heard if your session is worse or greater than mine. Some things that I did for an exit strategy that helped me that I'd like to share is just making money on the side. I sold everything I can get my hands on Facebook Marketplace. There's an app called Macari. At the time was free, but now I think they take a little portion of the sales as commission, but you still get to pick your pricing for your items how you want to. The beautiful secondhand thrift store for kids that I'm sure everyone knows about is Once Upon a Child. I would wash my kids' stuff and fold it up nicely, nicer than when I put it in my cart to go sell it over there. We also shopped there very often. Good secondhand items. A lot of it still has tags on it and generously priced for the situation. Kids grow fast, and I really don't know if they know where their shit comes from. They just want to make sure it has their favorite character on it or it's the color they like. And that store saved me a lot. You can buy discounted there and sell it back, and they will either give you store credit if that's what you choose, or they will put cash in your hand. I got really low at some point and I sold plasma. I sure did. Those big red buses that you see sometimes parked in like Walmart or Publix, and you can like sell your blood and you get like a movie ticket or something. There is a place, I think it was like BPL Plasma, and you check in. There are some medical waivers and things you have to do to qualify. That I don't remember all the ins and outs, but you can sign up and sell your plasma. I used to go 2 to 3 times a week for $65 at a time. They used to load the money on like a debit card, like a they do the direct deposit. So it's not something you have to go get. Once you do it, they'll let you know, hey, check your card tomorrow. The money will be on there. So I did that for a while for diapers, for wipes, for gas. I would make time to sell my plasma. They're open early and they stay open pretty late, and they were also open on the weekends. And maybe it was like 2 to 3 hours you'd be there each session, and they paid me for it on my card at that time. And then, like I stated before, I would also hit up they had food banks at churches, local churches in the area. And they had a Facebook page at the time that I would look and watch what churches were doing donations or food pantries. And sometimes they also gave out children's clothing and backpacks when it was that Christmas or back to school time. And I always made sure to register and get in those lines. And those are still going on today that I am aware of. For my money strategy, I also opened up a separate checking account from my spouse at the time. We had one joint account. He would empty it when he got paid. But if I did these little options on the side for money, whether that was the Facebook Market, the Macari, the Once Upon a Child, the selling the plasma, the food pantry, any of those things that I can get or sell or get cash in my hand, I would put that money in a separate account. And that separate account meant that he, A, didn't know it was there, and then B, couldn't take advantage and use it for himself. He was very strict on his money, and he didn't like when I spent too much in gas or bought too much groceries or food for the house. And I think money and financially giving up my right to work at that time and being solely dependent on one person's income, it played a big role in the control and how I viewed myself and my household after that. Apply for any assistance that you can, whether that was the 4C, the ELC, the food stamps, the Medicaid. If you can, if you qualify, lay your pride down. If you qualify, take it. If you qualify and it can help you, take it. I just always thought food stamps was like below me, and not because I ever felt like I did something worthy, maybe more so because of how the people around me viewed it. So I felt like if I used it, then I was less than, or I wasn't good enough. And food stamps took so much of the stress off my back. Like, to go in there and not have to like penny pinch and only get 16 ounces for WIC, like literally just being able to buy a whole loaf of bread and it went in the cart and we got to use it. It wasn't like you can buy anything alcohol related, or you can buy food that's not already cooked so you didn't cook for your kids. I still went home and cooked. They were still happy. They were still fed. They were still whole. And it took the stress of waiting in the church food pantry lines in the rain, or trying to find someone to watch them, because some of the church lines don't let you, they're long. So standing in some of those lines with kids it's not realistic. Kids have to use the bathroom. They're fidgeting. They're all over the place. And it's hard to do that with kids, to wait in a line for 3 to 4 hours for the same food. That food stamps was able to take a big stress off my back. So if you qualify for those assistance and you need them, please use them. I was very overwhelmed and emotional after, but my plan to figure out who I was and who my children were and what kind of mother I was very important to me. And I planned in advance. I think you should plan in advance, even if you can't do all of them at once. Doing one step at a time is very beneficial, and I think it can help you in the end. Just to state again, like I did in the other episode, the National Domestic Violence Hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. Always clear your cookies or your search histories if you are searching for help or shelters like Harbor House Online. If your computer or tablet has public access to your spouse or people in your home. And give these numbers and sources a call if you are in need of help. Everyone deserves to feel safe when they go home, and you are loved and you're seen. And one thing I do want to bring up is transportation. I know you guys can look at us and see, oh my gosh, it's a lot of people. 4 kids, 1 mom, that's 5 people. How did you get around? Again, circling back to selling my pride and tucking my tail between my ass, I kept that high school car until the wheels fell off. Like literally, it was maybe right at 300,000 miles before it finally completely died. But while going through the divorce, while trying to get to work, while trying to just do the regular mundane life, I kept my car. And this was a car that was already paid off and gifted to me at the time as a junior in high school, and I kept it. And that's probably the best decision I've ever made, because without it, I mean, the only option is we would have got on the bus. But at least the car payment and the car financially was covered, I did have to do some of these options sometime to keep my tag and registration up. And like I said, I sold plasma sometimes just to put gas in my car, but it gave us a safe transportation to get around. I knew it was reliable and I knew it was bought with good intentions for me to use it, so I used it. But I never upgraded my car for years until we got financially stable. I think I didn't buy a car again until Owen was like 2 or almost 3. And during the pandemic, we didn't go nowhere, so we didn't need a car. But if you are worried about transportation, always look for city transportation in your area, whether that is, I live in Orlando, Florida. We don't have subways or trains or things like that, but I wish we did. We only have the public bus, but depending on where you are, if your public transportation is safe and it runs during the hours that you need it to run and it can get you to point A to point B safely, use the bus. Don't let getting into car debt and buying a car you can't afford and then having payments that you can't afford be another hurdle you have to get over and something else that swallows and eats you alive, because the prices of cars right now are ridiculous and it is very expensive, and the insurance on new cars is just as bad. So if you have any way to use your public transportation system that your city offers or paid off hoopty, no matter how people look at you, please use it. Now we're going to move into Without Judgment. So this segment of Without Judgment, we're going to go over biological dad. Who is he? Do you know him? I'm guessing this is referring to me. I am adopted, like I've stated, and like we've went over plenty of times now, but I only have a relationship and have grown a relationship with my biological mother. My biological father's information was disclosed in my adoption box that I got. Biological mother, biological father in the same box. When I did reach out to this man, because the child I had of both parents at the time were childhood photos, so I had to find them in adult form. When I found him, he said that he carried a lot of guilt from me for years, saying that his family had to get up and move because at that time it wasn't appropriate for children to be having children. Religious reasons played a big role. His mom and my biological mother's mom agreed to just put me up for adoption. And when I found him that many years later, he wanted to get a DNA test just to make sure. And I respected that. He found the location. He paid for it. He went, left his sample. I went when I got off work. He was not there. I left my sample. And then in about a week, I got results in my email that he is not my father. So this is something I've brung up with my biological mother. She's 100% sure it's him. And with him, I have paperwork saying it's not him. So I don't know. I might get back on Ancestry.com and spit in another container and see what comes of it. But I don't have a relationship with him because the person that was described as my biological father genetically did not match. So yeah, my situation for It's Above Me for this episode is just going to be, what are we going to do?
You sent it to me. Hold on.
I'm going to dive into private schooling. For Andre, he is now in private school this year. This year for him is 10th grade. The culture at private school for him is a shocker. It is like him being placed on Mars. He feels completely outside of his body. He comes home every day with new stories. Some are funny and some are things I've never been able to understand. But I would love if private schools were more accessible in the terms of scholarships and funding for the mass public for kids who want to go there or educationally deserve to go there because they're testing well or mentorships are recommended. But as a single mother of 5 at the time when Andre was wanting to go to this private school, the school he was going to, there's a lot of gang activity. There's a lot of, it was just rough. It was rougher than what my child was. And he knew it. He felt it. And I felt it. And I tried to get him in the best place possible. But to sit there in administration and they tell you, oh, your child is great and they are smart and they are well-mannered and we'd love to have them here for a fee of $25,000 a academic school year, which means that's just August to May. That is more than college. In-state tuition FSU for my kids is like $6,500 a semester, which is a year, a semester. It is 20 grand and some change. And they got the nerve to charge $25 for lunch. For lunch. I don't know if they consider public school kids like poor, like broke of the broke, but public school kids, they passed a law that no public school kid pays for lunch. None. They don't care what your academic, your parents' financial background is. If you go to public school in Orange County, Orlando, Florida, your lunch is free. There is no child that is ever sitting in that building and just says, oh, my mom didn't pack my lunch, so they eat nothing. Or, oh, my mom didn't pay the school bill, so I eat nothing. There are hundreds of kids in Andre's school every week that do not eat. Because a lot of parents do not have the $25 a day. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's $125 a week for lunch. If it's $25 a day. Yes, it is an endless choice. Like they have a lot of selections and coffee and chai and those fruit barista bowls. I get it. It's a lot of options, but I just wish it was more accessible to the masses. And I wish I might start something on that, teaching moms how to get scholarships and funding for private school, even if you're not in those areas or it's not considered accessible. Like for me, I've known no one in my life who's gone to private school ever. All my cousins, every friend I have went to public school. We got on that yellow bus. This school is so bougie, they don't even have a bus. Every kid who goes there knows they have a parent that picks them up and drops them off. Every kid who goes there knows if they don't pack their lunch, they pay $25 a day for lunch. I get it, but I think what's considered the good life, a softer life, should be available to everyone, and that includes children. And I think if you want to get your child into a private school, and there's funding available, I want to figure out a way that it's more accessible to everyone, because swallowing 20 to 25 grand for a semester year for a 10th grader to go to 10th grade, this is the same child I reminded if he brushed his teeth yesterday. I don't pay 25 grand for nothing this year. I didn't pay nothing this year I bought was 25 grand. It's crazy. So yeah, that's what's above me. And I think it should be more accessible. I think the pricing is still outrageous, even though it is a great school. It is great. Fundamentally, it's great for the kids. I get it. But there has to be some sort of a limit. Kind of like private colleges, how they get to charge you whatever they want for tuition. And those are the only student loans that are federally unforgivable. It's crazy. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I love you. I'm happy we sat together. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about me. I hope you do know and keep in mind that you deserve to be happy and safe at all times. I hope you know some ways you can help yourself or help a neighbor. I think we need to be more mindful of who's around us in our circle. I think it is okay to ask the person next to you, how are you? Are you safe? I think there's a reason the 1-800 domestic hotline number, which again is 1-800-799-7233, is just about in every women's bathroom in America that is in a public area. I want to know that you're loved, you're seen, and it's okay to have weak moments during healing. Healing isn't always empowering. It can be a very low point for a while until you figure out exactly who you are. Again, my name is Ariel. This is the This Too Shall Pass podcast, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you follow the show for weekly episodes wherever podcasts are found so that you don't miss an episode. I'll see you next week.